Welcome to the Effortless English Show. Hi, I'm A.J.Hoge, and this is the show where we teach you to speak English powerfully. Go to effortlessenglishclub.com and join my free email course. What is the #1 secret for success with English? Well, my guest today is Steve Koffman. Steve speaks over 13 languages. He is the founder of link.com, and I think we can say he's an expert on language learning. So he's going to talk today about his secrets for learning languages. So let's go ahead and go straight to Steve. And Steve, what is your #1 secret for learning English or any other languages for our audience?
Well, you know, I could talk about all of the little things that I do, the techniques that I've learned that help me learn languages, but I think the biggest thing is that I like learning languages. I like learning them. I like the language. It doesn't matter what the language is. At first, I may not know that much about it, and the more I get into it, the more I study the language, the more I like it. So I think that it's that ability to enjoy learning the language, like the learning process, like the language, and with that, the confidence that you will end up, despite all the problems, all the forgetting, all the difficulties, you will end up being able to communicate better and better in the language. So that, I think that's the attitude that I have, which I think is, it's not unique, but people who haven't done a lot of language learning, who are still struggling with their first language, they don't have the perspective that I have because I've learned so many languages.
And you know, that's not something you learn in school. I mean, when you're learning languages in school, which is where most people start their first experience, I don't remember enjoyment really being talked about much or, you know, seeming important. And I think people carry that mentality, that attitude from school into their independent learning, and they see it as this, you know, this thing they must achieve to, you know, achieve a score or to achieve something, and there's not a lot of enjoyment or fun in that.
I agree 100%. And what's happening now is that more and more people are going to be learning outside the classroom because there's so many more resources available now, even in terms of technology. You know, I have a little MP3 player here, my iPad, or what is it called, iPod Nano. Okay, when I started studying Chinese, I had a great big open reel tape recorder. You know, so that, the internet, the resources that are on the internet. So as we have to learn more on our own, it becomes more important that we take charge of our own learning. So a lot of the ways in which we learned in the classroom, where we had a test, so you had to learn this for the test and that for the test, and making a mistake in that environment was bad because you didn't get 9 out of 10, you got 6 out of 10. So people are afraid of making mistakes. One thing that I've learned is you have to make mistakes. It's only through making mistakes. You have to, you know, not understand very well what you're reading and listening to. You have to do that, and you have to put yourself in a position where you don't understand and you can't find the words, and all of this is essential to the learning process. So those things which in a classroom, you know, you're afraid of getting poor marks for doing, those are precisely the things that you have to do when you're an independent learner.
And I think that's, you know, such a key change for people to realize, and everyone wants the secret method, the secret little technique that will allow them to, you know, learn English much faster or master it much faster. But this attitude, this psychology, I found also as a teacher, that's what I'm focusing on more and more, because that seems to be what's most important. This kind of the opposite attitude of school, which is enjoying and realizing that mistakes are okay and being comfortable with uncertainty. You know, all of these things. Absolutely, and I think that, you know, each person has this tremendous power, potential power to learn. And I think what you're doing is very, very important.
because you're helping people unlock this potential. And that potential that they have within themselves, that attitude, is far more important than any book, any grammar book, any stack of flashcards, or any other technique that they might use. If they are genuinely motivated, confident, driven to learn the language, but also through the language to learn other things. Most of my language learning is not involved in studying grammar rules. Very quickly, I move to interesting content on subjects that interest me. Some person might be interested in gardening, in music, in anime if they're studying Japanese, or in history, so that to get that language to where you are getting that sense of power that you are actually using this language for some practical purpose, which may be listening, maybe watching movies, maybe any way that you are using the language. Even if you only understand 60–70%, that's a wonderful achievement. And people spend more time worrying about what they don't understand, what they can't do, what they forget, where they should be encouraging themselves by giving themselves credit for what they can do.
You know, last week we had Teresa Snyder, she's a writer, and we were talking about reading, and you know, the same idea you're talking about, which is, you know, people always ask me, what should I read? Tell me the book to read. And my answer is, well, what's interesting to you? Because some people like romance, and some people like motorcycles, and some people like politics. And people, you know, a message I try to get out is trust yourself, trust your interests. You don't have to rely on the expert. You know, you can trust yourself.
Absolutely. And I think this is crucial in all fields of education. People have to become more independent, and they have to decide what they want. I mean, people as well on my YouTube channel, they say, should I learn Japanese or Spanish? Well, how do I know? You know, that's entirely up to you. So it has to be driven by the person. Another thing that I would say in terms of my approach to language learning compared to many other people, I feel that words are very important. I feel that if we want to be fluent, if we want to be able to discuss, you know, a variety of subjects, we need a lot of words. And we also need to have a high degree of comprehension, listening comprehension, reading comprehension. So this also requires a lot of words. When I study a language, I'm much more interested in how well I'll be able to understand and eventually communicate in 6 months, 9 months, 12 months from now. I'm not that concerned about what I can say after 1 month. It really doesn't matter much to me after 1 month, because I'm not in it for 1 month. I'm in it for 12 months and beyond. I'm constantly refreshing the languages that I've learned. So I think that's a strategic thing. Sometimes people think, well, if I can only learn 10 phrases, I'll be fine. You won't be fine, because when you use those 10 phrases, you won't understand what people are saying back to you.
Yeah, I had that exact experience in Italy. I went on a trip. This was many years ago, and I just studied Pimsleur, so I learned a few phrases. And but I was really, I don't know, something about Italian. I loved the sound of it, so I really got into the sound. And when I was in Rome, I remember I talked to this bartender, and I said something. You know, I ripped off a couple of sentences in Italian, and then he starts talking to me, and I couldn't understand anything he said. There was no communication.
Right.
So,
and we shouldn't underestimate the amount of time it takes to train your brain in the new language, in the culture that surrounds the new language, so that you end up, part of why you don't understand the bartender is that you haven't been in that situation before, so you can't anticipate what he's going to say to you. So even if you theoretically understood what he was saying, you still wouldn't get it, because we rely so much on our ability to pick up from clues. We can almost anticipate what people are going to say. And to develop those habits in a new language takes a long time. A long time. One should never underestimate the amount of time it takes to do that.
You know, it's another topic. I mean, you see this online all the time, people debating, you know, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and everyone, again, it's a finish line idea that there's some line, and I just got to get there as fast as possible, and then I'm done. I know you see this all the time too. You know, what are your thoughts on that? That this schedule mentality.
No, I think it's not very helpful, because